Hi, Year 4, it's Miss Nath again, and I have got your wonder for today. Hope you're all feeling good and excited because our wonder for today is history. And I know we've done a lot on history, a little bit looking at the Romans, and today is linking our history and our geography together. We are kind of looking at the Romans, but we're also looking at it in a geography way as well. I do not make sense, but I will when you see what we're doing. So we're going to be looking at artifacts. And I'm not going to give away much more because I don't want to give you the answers to the questions that I put on the first few slides. So I'm going to share my screen and ask you a couple of big questions. Okay. Okay, so our what for today is to know what an artifact is by exploring the world so that we can group artifacts and ask questions about them. Now, one of the key things that we need to do, that's not a great language, I can't think of the word, characteristics. One of the key characteristics of a historian and a geographer is to ask questions, okay, to be curious. And I know at Wymondham we are very curious. And so to be a historian and a geographer, we need to ask questions. So that's a big thing in today's lesson. And we will be writing it in our purple box set book. Okay. So the big question is, Pompeii erupted in the past. Okay. And we know that. We're told that by lots of the books that we read and stories that we hear. So Pompeii erupted in the past. How do we know it though? I mean, I wasn't there, but I, as a teacher, tell you that it happened. So how do we know that it even ever happened? Because it was in the past. So pause the video for me, see if you can come up with some answers as to why, how do we know that that happened? Okay, so I'm going to show you a couple of pictures that help to explain why we know what we know about the past. So it's not just Pompeii, but the past and history in general. Okay, now I've put warning at the bottom because it will be showing, there is a picture coming up. Don't want to spoil it too much for you, but the picture will show from Pompeii the remains of somebody who died after the eruption. You can't see anything, it's all, the person's all white, it looks like they're dusty, but it is the remains of someone after Pompeii erupted. Okay, so just so that you are prepared, if you do not want to see it, then you can skip through or pause the video and ask your adult to skip through for you. But it's something that I would tell you about and show you in class, but I just want you to know so it doesn't surprise you and spring on your screen. Okay, so maybe if you're worried that it might upset you a little bit or make you a bit sad or scared, then ask your adult, pause the video and ask your adult to watch it first if you would like, okay? But like I say, it's a picture that we would see on the news if we're watching news round, but just so that you're aware. So I'm about to show you the picture. So what we've got, the reason that we know that Pompeii erupted in the past is that we've got evidence of it. We've got artifacts and sources. So you can see that here, a bit of a rewind for us because we've looked at primary and secondary sources, but primary sources are objects or things that are from that time. So for example, these are the remains of people that were from the time that Pompeii erupted. Okay, and it looks like I'm saying that that is a secondary source, but it's not, because this is again remains of things that were around during the Roman times, before Pompeii erupted. So these are sources that we can trust, we definitely can, because they can't really lie to us, because this is a representation of what happened at Pompeii and how people suffered through the eruption at Pompeii. And this is a street that, unless somebody goes and knocks a wall down and puts another one up to make it look like it was there, this is a source we can trust as well, because it's real streets, real things that are from the time. It's not me saying, oh, so apparently I heard so-and-so say. It's not that, okay? It's trusted because it is from the time. And that is what a primary source is. If you rewind back to last half term, we looked a lot at primary and secondary sources when we looked at our inventors. And we know that a primary source is an object or even a person or a story or a letter, something that is from the time. So something that happened, was made, was written, was told at that time is a primary source. And then on the other hand, secondary sources are where, like your, I haven't got one with me, but the books that we look at in the Roman lessons, they are a secondary source because that wasn't around in the Roman times. Someone has written it afterwards to say, this is what happened. Okay, so if I tell you facts about Rome, that is a secondary source. I, as a teacher, am a secondary source of information because I wasn't there. I know, I am I'm not that old, guys. I know I'm older, but I'm not that old enough to have been at the Roman times. So I am a secondary source because I'm giving you information that I have seen elsewhere. Primary sources are from the time, secondary sources are where we talk about or where I look at something and give you the information second hand. Okay, so an artifact then is to do with sources. So an artifact is an object made by a human being. So for example, a pot or a pan or some jewelry. So something that a human made, typically of cultural or historical interest. Okay, so we can have cultural artifacts, but we're going to be looking at historical artifacts. Okay, so a historical artifact is an object made by a human historically, so in the past. So we might find pieces of Roman pottery. They are artifacts because they are objects that humans made in the Roman times, and we are now looking at them a long time after it happened. Okay, so artifacts are mostly referring to the objects that we can physically touch and we have still got. So today we are going to be historians. So put your historian hat on, alliteration, put on your historical historian hat, hard hat, and we are going to be historians. So when a historian looks at an object, say there's a little piece of pottery or part of a Roman building, does the historian, because they're a historian, do they go, oh, definitely know what that is straight away? They know straight away what an object is? Not always. They might over time start to know what the pots look like, but they won't know straight away. How do they find out what it is? They can't go and ask Romulus and Remus or Julius Caesar. They're not around anymore. They can ask somebody who's a pro, but as historians, we're the pros as well. So how do we know what an artifact is? We need to ask questions, not just one, not just two. We need to ask lots of questions. Now, before I move on, what kind of questions do you think I need to ask? Do you think I need to ask, oh, I wonder if that piece of pottery is happy or sad? Oh, I wonder if that piece of pottery has a favorite color that's blue. Are they the kind of questions we need to ask? We need to be asking certain questions. So we need to be asking who might have used it? What might they have used it for? Seen a bit of a pattern here. Why might they have used it? When might they have used it? If you think about our 5 W's when we're writing a newspaper report, they're really important now as well because they're going to help us ask questions to find out what different things were. So I'm going to show you 3 artifacts and you are going to, in your purple box set books, write it out for me. Okay, so let me share with you how it's going to, in fact, I'll share it with you in a second. Calm down, Miss Node, let's talk first. So artifact number 1, this is out of our Roman book. So if you already know it, then shh. So it's out of our Roman book. It is a Roman item. And here are some questions to help you. So what could it be? What do you think it's made of? That's a good question because if it's made of strong stuff, then it's used for something that will require strong items. Okay, so something that needs to be sturdy. What does it look like that we have today? Because some of the things that we use that they use are very similar. So does it look like anything that we can compare it to? Who might have used it? Where might they have used it? What might they have done with it? When might they have used it? So lots of questions around the edge. What I would like you to do is have a little pause of the video, have a little think, and just write down what you think it could be. So I would like you to write 2 questions, and I would like you to also write than what you think it could be. And I'll show you how I'd like you to set it out. Okay, sorry guys, I changed my mind. I forgot that I changed my mind about this lesson. So I do not want it in your purple books. I would like it in jotters or on a piece of paper. I just want you to have a go at writing these down somewhere for me so that I can see what you're doing. But it doesn't need to go in your purple book because this is not one that we would put in our books in school. But I still would like you to write it down for me. So I would like you, I am using the pen that does not work very well. I would like you to write artifact 1, and I would like you to put 2 questions for me that you think are important questions to ask. So I think what might it be made of is really important here. Because if it's made of a certain thing, it tells us whether the job was tough, if it's strong, or if it's something that's not, if it's made of something material that's not that strong, then it's not really for a tough job. So what is it made of? That's one question. I also think what is it similar to is really important, and that will help us because we got a lot from the Romans. So we might have got this from them. So what is it made? No, that's what you've just asked, Miss Nook. What is it similar to? Okay, and then I would like you to put what you think it is. So I think that because of this hole at the top, it looks like you could hook it onto something. I think it's part of a Roman keyring because it's similar to keyrings that we see, maybe because of that. Now, obviously, that wasn't the best answer, and I can tell you for sure it's not a keyring. But that was just, I wanted to show you how we can reason about it. I mean, we do hang keys up on a keyring like that, so it could be, but I know that you can have a slightly better and more educated guess. But it's really important to think about what it's similar to because this is something that we do have in our modern times as well. Okay, so that's artifact 1. Artifact 2. I'd like to pause the video, note down a couple of key questions. So write artifact 2 underneath, a couple of key questions, and then what you think it is for me. So pause and have a go. And then finally, artifact number 3. Now this is very random, and if you know what this is, then I'll be very surprised. But as historians, we need to ask questions and we need to form our answers and form our ideas and justify them. So if you can justify to me what you think this is and why, then I'm happy. Because the main thing is that as historians, we need to be able to ask questions, okay? So we need to be able to ask about it, what it was used for, and start to think what this might have been, okay? And so pause the video for me because the next slide that I show you will have the answers on. Okay, so artifact number 1 was a bronze strainer. So cooks use them to drain food, and separate sauces. Okay, so you can see those little holes separate the food. For example, the rice from the water, if you're rinsing rice out, or maybe the Brussels sprouts, get rid of the water, keep the Brussels sprouts in there. I do love a Brussels sprout. So this, the reason I was asking you to think about what it's made of, because it's made of metal, it's clearly something that's used in quite a lot of jobs where it needs to be robust. So hot food items are going in there, so it needs to be strong, it needs to not melt. So because it's made of a metal, it means that it is a very tough job that it's going to have to perform. Okay, and artifact number 2 is they think a bunting. Now this, in the Roman book, it says that they assume, it is thought that it was used for this, and that just goes to show you that even historians that are trained historians, we are historians obviously, even people that do this for a job are not always 100% sure. And we can't be sure because we can't go and ask Julius Caesar and ask him what it was for. So they think that this is a bunting used for baking buns or cupcakes or even poaching eggs. And this is because they think this, and this is the main thing, they can tell us why. They think that because it was found alongside other kitchen items. So therefore it makes sense that it is also a kitchen item. It's not 100% for sure, but it makes sense to think that that is what it was for. Okay, and to be fair, it does look like a cupcake tin that we might have around the house, or an egg poacher, probably not an egg poacher. So the final one is a pump, and it is used to raise water to fill tanks for the public fountains. So the water that's at floor level was raised through these pumps. It was pumped higher so that it could be used for the public fountains. So well done if you said that this was a pump. Very, very random, I know, but I just wanted to throw it in there and see if you could ask some good questions about it and come up with some good ideas. Okay, and you can see that there's a bit of a mechanism down here. So that is what the historians that found it used to help understand what it was for. They looked at the inner mechanisms of it as well. Okay, so that was a tiny little taste of us being historians, and I love it. I think it's so amazing that we can just be curious and that we can predict and we can speculate and we can estimate and work out what we think things were for. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I do. I really love this kind of lesson. And I hope you came up with some fantastic ideas. And as long as, like I say, as long as you can explain your idea to me with some reasons, I'll take it. So as long as you could explain some of your thoughts, then I think your artifacts could have quite easily been what you think they were as well. Okay, so well done, guys. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you very soon.